know Jeffrey. He is one of our customer engineers who's going to be working more in the DHS space on some of our Power Platform initiatives. Jeff, I'll let you do a full intro, but again, thank you, and I'm very excited to hear what you have for us today on InfoPath modernization.
Thanks, Ryan. So it's not just me, but there's also Jay Hagan and a few others that are in Microsoft as well. So if at any given time, if you have any question, feel free to add that to the chat right here. Actually, let me go ahead and make sure my screen is being shared. Do you see the screen in front of you?
Yes, we do.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So feel free to add any comments or questions in the chat right here at any given time. And then let me just close out a few of these things so that it's nice and clear for me. All right. So this is an adaptation of the migrated to InfoPath and Power Automate Activate. All right. So this is usually a 2-day duration proof of concept. In this activation, um, Microsoft intellectual property, there's everything from exploring
Actually,
to
Jeff,
innovating. Say again.
I'm I'm sorry. I'm not seeing your screen, and I don't know if it's just me or.
No worries. Let me go ahead and share that right there. Do you see it now?
Okay, yes, now I'm seeing it. Sorry about that.
Okay. Oh, no worries. Thanks for chiming in. All right. So in the activation for migrating InfoPath and Power Apps, it's usually about 2 days. It involves upgrading, migrating, and deployment. All right. And everything that is necessary in day one. They'll discuss everything from the features, functionality, also a ramp up, and then also covering how do you transition to InfoPath to Power Apps, and then you do a hackathon as far as converting the InfoPath to Power Apps, right? So there's multiple people that are accredited to teach this. I just modified this lesson or this session for DHS needs, right? So some of the things that we're going to work with today, of course, is Office 365. We're going to delve into SharePoint, Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, and as well as Teams. And we're going to do that at a high level. We're not going to drill deeply down into those different areas. I just wanted to let you know that's what we're going to be discussing as we go through modernization with Power Platform from an InfoPath perspective, right? So this is just not Power InfoPath to Power Apps. This is the whole entire cloud platform, if you will. There are 99 slides here. Hopefully, I don't take you through every single slide. A lot of it, of course, is in the appendix. Definitely some good key information there. And then also, I want to do a demo. So just want to let you know that's what we're going to do. All right.
And
So
Jeff, sorry to
go ahead.
interrupt. Would we be able to get a copy of that?
Sure, I'll modify this to take out any information that shouldn't be up in here, and then I'll send you a copy via a PDF.
Thank you.
But yeah, I could definitely send that out to everyone. As long as everyone in the what do you call that, in the invite, then I'll send out to anyone that's inside the invite. If I'm missing someone, feel free to share it, within DHS. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. So we're going to go over agenda about me, InfoPath overview. Some of you may or may not know InfoPath. Some of you may have just been thrown into this job. So definitely want to just go over an overview of that. Then we're going to do a Power Platform overview. Just different components of Power Platform and how does it fit into the conversion of and modernization of InfoPath. After that, we're going to discuss the reason for migration, best practices, feature parity, um, do a demo as it pertains to Power Apps, and then we're going to leverage Power Automate and Power BI. So it's a very power packed day. We may or may not fulfill the whole hour and a half, but we do have time at the end for Q&A. I think I set my timer for at least 15 minutes for that Q&A session. But at any given time, feel free to jump in if you have any questions. If I'm not available in chat, one of the great people from Microsoft will actually help you out as well. Right. Without further ado, this is me. A little bit about me. I've been working with InfoPath since 2009. I think that was like the 2003 version, and then I worked my way up to all of the versions of InfoPath, working with SharePoint Online, Office 365, and the Power Platform. So I've done everything from build applications from scratch, trained over 2,000 people in these type of things as well. Right. My specialties, of course, is Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agent, just a whole entire Power Platform. And when you get a chance, feel free to put your sound on mute so that there's no feedback for the rest of the audience. Also, little things I like to do is travel. All right, like going to the beach. It's me teaching this Dolphin the Power Platform and converting to Power Automate and Power Apps. She's actually so happy that there's a tear that's coming out of her eye. I don't know if you can see that or not, but she's happy that she's learned how to convert Power InfoPath to the Power Platform. So that's just the extent of my jokes. Pretty dry, but hopefully I at least got one or two laughs. All right. So InfoPath overview. All right. So a lot of us know that InfoPath came out in 2003, and it was because XML was very popular. Microsoft created it so that people can easily update forms. Just basically end users can do that. And it also always came with Microsoft Office, and it was integrated very well into SharePoint, first on-prem, and then SharePoint Online. Unfortunately, the latest version of InfoPath is InfoPath 2013. We're already in 2021. The end date for mainstream support is July 2021, right? So that definitely gives us a reason why we should migrate, all right? And in addition to that, the extended support ends in 2026, all right? Some of us seen this InfoPath interface. We saw a ribbon at the top, all right? We saw in here where you your group of ribbon. You saw your task pane where you have your fields at and where you create your actions and things of that nature. And this is your workspace where you create your format. And then of course, if you wanted to, you can go to check out the properties, and then you can also look at the rule inspection, right? That's actually important because some of those rules you need to migrate to the Power Platform, specifically to Power Apps, right? So if you have a rule in there that says set this time, do a concatenation, set this date, definitely want to take note of those, right? But some of you may be saying, we got hundreds, if not thousands, of InfoPath forms, right? How do you migrate that? How do you move all that and then capture all that? How do you assess that and then from a holistic standpoint, all right? So with that being said, what's the best practice for migration? So the first thing you want to do is assessment, all right? You want to inventory your InfoPath forms. You want to know who the last author is, location, how many items are in there. You want to see what type of data connections are available. And then after that, you want to map the feature parity. All right. Next thing, you want to go to remediation. You want to see if it's actually created in an InfoPath library. That's going to definitely take much more work. And if it's created in a SharePoint online list or even a SharePoint list, and then it'll take less work. In fact, the SharePoint online list, you may just want to create the app, Power App directly from that, and then it's an easy turnaround. The next easy turnaround is from on-prem, migrating that to SharePoint Online, and then of course creating your app from there. The more difficult one is a InfoPath library. That's going to require you to create a new list based on the InfoPath library, migrate all that content to that. And we'll discuss that a little later on in the next couple of slides, but I just want to let you know the groundwork that you have to do as it pertains to the remediation, all right? So some of the things you also may want to do is communicate. You want to say, okay, we're now going to stop updating this library, this list that pertains to that has an InfoPath as a back end or the front end form of inputting data, right? This to the communication, you want to of course, as mentioned earlier, start migrating items and then communicate again and let them know that it's ready to go when it goes to deployment. But before you get there, of course, you want to create the application with using the Power Platform, add that functionality, use any enhancements such as Dataverse, Power Automate, and Power BI. And then after that, just like any other software development lifecycle or application management lifecycle, you want to test, publish, share, communicate, and then enjoy. Occasionally, I'll ask if there's any questions, but I'll do that usually when I shift to the next topic, right? So as it pertains to assessment, manually takes way too long, right? So that takes a tremendous amount of time, especially, working with, dozens of people, depending on your organization, even sometimes hundreds of people, because there's sometimes application owners or InfoPath owners that really needs to take control of that, and they don't even know where everything's at, right? So there are some third-party tools that are out there. I'm not going to discuss those here. Feel free to research those on your own. I can't recommend those because I work for Microsoft, but there are some pretty good ones out there, right? Microsoft have the SharePoint migration tool. It's very robust, and it looks at the whole entire SharePoint that's on-prem as well as online, and it basically gives you the information that you need, even from a InfoPath standpoint, right? But it gives you a tremendous amount of information. So you may or may not need that. But if you do want to use that, feel free and go for it. It's definitely a great tool to use. There's also a PowerShell, right? It's extremely specific and it gives you just the InfoPath information that you need, all right? So in that workshop, they have that zip file, right? In that zip file, there's a couple of scripts that you can use. You can download it and put it on your desktop. You can run PowerShell as an admin. Anyone that the roles that should run that, of course, is the global admin, farm admin, or the site collection administrator, and of course, that should have the ability to run PowerShell. All right. After that, they can get information directly from the site collection or the farm that's on-prem, or the tenant or site collection that's in SharePoint Online. All right, so there's a couple of caveats here on or what type of commands or camlets you need to run inside of PowerShell. You don't need all of these, right? The first one, of course, is um, installing this camlet. All right. After that, this one is getting the information that are on-prem. All right. And then after that, it's going to download the commands. It's going to look at everything for you. It's going to go through your system. And then, of course, once it goes to that, it's going to spit out some information for you that's relevant to that you'll see on the next screen, right? They also have things for, as mentioned earlier, site collections versus the farm. And, of course, SharePoint Online versus on-prem, all right? So the four document libraries, well, let me rephrase that. The four folders that you need on-prem on a desktop is a summary, log, downloaded forms, and analysis, right? And of course, this is by scale, right? If it's like a 10, 20 forms, not a problem. People can manage that. If there's, again, hundreds of forms or even thousands of forms, this is definitely one of the best ways to go, all right? Here are the files, of course, to install the camlet and use the PowerShell. Some of the outputs, of course, is the log. I'm sorry, the summary. Inside the summary, you have a site collection ID, the site URL, the relative path, and then the item count, how many items that pertains to that InfoPath form that's inside of that library, right? In addition to that, you see a log files, what happened through that analysis. After that, you see a downloaded forms. If you want to download any InfoPath library forms, the InfoPath forms are here. They're the .xsn files, which is very similar to XML. And then after that, you do an analysis. Inside your analysis folder, you see information like this, right? And inside that analysis form, you see where the location of those forms are, the web URL, and any relative path of that form itself, and any item count that's corresponding to that, right? So this one has 0 item count. Most likely someone wasn't never used this form, all right? There's also a date in here too, as far as when it was last used. That's actually in a another Excel file. And then the migration level is low for that. And then anything with a high migration level, let's pretend like there was a lot of conditions there, a lot of data connections there, and then in that case, the migration effort will be high, right? So of course, this is one option for you. You can use, and it's definitely a free option, whether you're using either the SMAT tool, the SharePoint migration tool, or the PowerShell tool. All right. So this is what we already discussed, but let me go into detail. Before we discuss that, occasionally I'll pause. Don't worry, I'm still here. And occasionally I'll just say I'm going to drink some water because I do talk a lot. So as it pertains to remediation, Of course, you want to see what list forms are created, and then switch those over to Power Apps. Any library forms, you'd have to create a new list. So you have to make that assessment and then make sure that you're going to mirror the functionality. And then with your new list, you want to stop that any workflows that are there. You want to make sure that the communication is put out, and then start migrating items. As it pertains to creation, just create the app directly from SharePoint Online, or you can even create the apps from Teams. That's a little bit more complex. It's not difficult, but just a couple more steps. And then with that, you can actually leverage the Dataverse, but we'll discuss that's outside the scope of this presentation. All right. And then after you create your application directly from SharePoint Online, which we'll show in the demo today, you can start adding the functionality there. Some enhancements as discussed earlier, other connectors, Dataverse, Power Automate, and then Power BI. Okay, so before we go any further, are there any questions? Just want to switch back to here and just double check here as well. All right. Thank you, Lauren. Let's see here.
Hey Jeff, you don't have to worry about jumping in the chat. I have it open, so if there's any questions, I'll either tackle them or I'll let you know.
I appreciate that, Jay. All right, so
Yep.
let me just go ahead and go back. All right, so what are some of the reasons migrate? Well, we saw earlier, right? Mainstream support ends a couple months from now. Extended support ends very soon, right? Relatively soon. All right, and then of course the value proposition, Power Platform, not just Power Apps, but empowers all users with low code. And in fact, it's not really even low code, technically speaking. It's called Power FX, which is very similar to Excel functions, what we'll see later in the presentation as well as in the demo, right? It's easy to connect to different data sources, all right? I remember back in the days, it was sometimes hard to find that string when you want to connect to a service inside of SharePoint on-prem. And to really connect to the data sources, a couple of clicks of a button, then you're done. You can also build and deploy solutions via mobile apps, right? InfoPath did not have that easily capability, all right? And it's also integrated with Flow, BI, Teams, in fact, the whole entire Office suite. So it is, Power Apps is a successor to InfoPath, all right? And as mentioned earlier, I already talked about those other things, all right? So I'm just gonna pause for a couple of seconds, drink a little water. Now, if I was there in person, I wouldn't say that. I would just be drinking, but you know. All right. So as mentioned earlier, the top benefits is you definitely see a return on your investments as it pertains to streamlined development, mobile readiness, as well as low cost. All right. Just don't believe Microsoft, Forrester, Gartner also said that as it pertains to Power BI, the Power Platform is definitely the leader. In addition to that, most code by 2024 will be low code applications, right? And of course, it's a cross solution arena. All right. When I say the Power Platform, it's robust. We have Dynamics, we have Office 365, mobile apps, web apps, Azure. All right. The Power Platform is available with that architecture or infrastructure. All right. And as well as cross-platform tools. Power BI is for business analytics. Power Apps is for application development. Power Automate is for automating business process or creating flows. And the Power Virtual Agent, which will be available as we heard earlier, estimated time is June 2021 in GCC. That is basically allows you to create virtual agents. And you've seen those when you actually go in and you ask a computer or bot, a question, and it gives you back the response, right? So you can easily create a virtual agent, and sometimes a matter of minutes if you're an expert, and sometimes it'll take a few hours to create that bot as well. The beauty of the Power Platform, you're really focusing more on data, right? Once you have that data source, and then you can easily create that application within minutes, at least as far as the CRUD or create, update, delete, and edit capability. After that, you can modify to fit your needs, but again, and it usually only takes no more than 2 to 3 minutes once you have that data set put into place, right? So there's dozens of connectors inside of GCC. We're not going to talk about commercial, but there's definitely hundreds of them there. There's hundreds of templates and things of that nature. There's portals for outside experience, anyone that's outside your organization. AI Builder is coming in July 2021, estimated date. And of course, Dataverse can connect all of these information to one centralized database, which is based on SQL inside of Azure, right? So why use Power Platform? Well, we all have different needs, whether it's budget needs, time resource needs, paper processes, event applications, help desk. You have the different jobs within your organization, whether it's HR or whatever you will. And one thing to do is connect people with applications, with data, and then you want to make their job easier. You want to build relationships, you want to improve operations, drive innovation, and build connections. The Power Platform allows you to easily do that, and it no longer will take weeks and months. You can literally create applications within days, and sometime within a few hours. So again, the Power Platform leverages data connections. All these data connections are not available in GCC, but most of them are. All right. These are the ones that are available in GCC. All right. If it has a diamond beside it, then it's a premium connector. If it doesn't have a diamond beside it, then it's all automatically available with your Office 365 license. We're not going to discuss license in detail here, but I do have some slides in the appendix if you want to discuss that later on. I'm not going to go through all these, but one of the most commonly one used is SharePoint and then OneDrive for business. The Dataverse is a premium option, and you at least need a Power Platform by user license or by app license. But the, by user license definitely increases the Dataverse space. All right. So we mentioned this low code, right? And the best way to create an application is to connect your data. When you do that, it automatically create at least the baseline that you need. And then after that, you can just start coding. Again, it's low code, and that's only if you need it. And the code is very similar to what you're using in Excel. So if you're used to using Excel, you can basically modify the application to do what you need to do, right? And after that, you publish it to the web or mobile app. So I'm going to say the same thing in the next couple of slides, all right? So here's the home page of Power Apps. You just go to office.com, log in with your credentials, and then it'll go directly to your .us account or GCC account, right? Once you do that, you go to the Power Apps home page. Give me a couple seconds. All right. And then you're good to go, all right? So I'll go into the demo later on, but I just don't want to jump back and forth right now. We mentioned the artificial intelligence. That's not going to be really available. Well, some of that is also already available in GCC, but it's limited, as we can see here. And there's the website that you can go to see what are those limitations. And then more will be readily available in different throughout this year, right? But these ones were taken directly from GCC, and these are, of course, some of these are available, right? Let me actually kind of talk about artificial intelligence. So it does everything from business card reading, let me see, form processing, and things of that nature. Right? The most commonly used Power App is a Canvas app, all right? There's also a model or modal-driven app based on Dynamics. And of course, there's a portal app based on Dynamics as well. But the most commonly used one, the one that's associated to your Office 365 license, is a Canvas app. And that is a simple business situation, although you can make it complex. And then some of the things that is included is data validation, data sources, as well as accessibility. All right. This is how Power Apps look. All you have to do is go to office.com, click on Power Apps, you click Create, and then, or you go to your SharePoint Online, you click, so let me show you that. Let's go ahead and let's jump out of presentation for a couple seconds. So I'm on office.com, I already logged in earlier, all right? And this is in the Gov Cloud. So, and then once I'm in office.com, if I don't see everything, I can click on this widget, and then I can click on Power Apps, all right? So you see that I am in GCC. These are readily available in your tenant. You got everything, the connectors from SharePoint, Excel, SQL, Common Data Services. And then these are some of the apps I created. You can go to learn more. I'm going to skip that one. You can go to apps. These are all the apps I have in this environment. I can go to create. I can create new apps, all right? Canvas model portal, as we saw earlier. Anything based on these data sets. And then, of course, anything based on these templates as well. If these templates are in your environment, sometimes they remove them based on the needs, right? If CDS was available here, I'm confident it's not in this tenant, but CDS will be readily available here. And of course, all the flows that you created will be readily available here as well. So you can actually look at your flows that are associated to this tenant, all right? That took an awful amount of time, but that's fine. All right, so with that being said, let me stay out of the demo mode for a little, the presentation mode for a little bit. Let me go to the SharePoint list. All right. So once we're in this SharePoint list, we're saying, okay, we want to create this we want to create a Power App out of this SharePoint list. All right. So you can go to integrate Power App, and then you have the ability to customize form, which when someone comes to this SharePoint list, they can actually when they create new, the form comes up. But I like to create an app that's separate from here because maybe we don't want them to see this application. Maybe we don't want them to, maybe we just want them to give them read writes, but not even know where this information is at. Maybe some information is PI or any type of information that's sensitive, and you only want them to see their own record. The beauty of Power Apps, you can create it and they don't know where this data source is at. They know that they're connecting to a SharePoint data source, but they don't, even have access to this data source, but only what you desire them to have access to or what you desire them to see. So I'm just going to click on create an app. This is an employee app, so I'm just going to say DHS employees. All right. And I'm just going to click create. So if that was an InfoPath, if the back end of that was InfoPath, all right, so let's go back to this list. I'm going to go to list settings. So I'm going to take about 2 minutes to create. And then I go to form settings. And then as you can see, mine's grayed out because I don't have that service because I purposely disabled that service here. But if you have the option of use a custom form created in InfoPath, that option is there, right? What I'm going to do is default to this one, right? Because I don't desire to use an InfoPath form there. So again, if your list already has a list InfoPath form, you're good to go. Remember we saw that earlier? You can just create the application directly from your SharePoint list. If it has an InfoPath library form, that's going to take some work. You want to put it inside a list like this, and then after that, you should be good to go. All right. So that's already created. I just wanted to show you what your steps will be for creating one application. All right. So this is created. All right, and it has 4 CRUD: create, update, read, and delete. So here, this is just the different aspects of the Power Platform. Power Apps. I'll discuss a few things and I'll jump back to the slide, and then we can skip probably at least about a dozen slides, right? So here we have different screens. There's a browse screen, detail screen, and edit screen. This is the browse screen we're presently on. This is a gallery. It stores all information that's pertaining to that particular list, and it has all the different components, if you will, of this Power App, right? So we have, let's just say the rectangle, we have the search icon, the search box, and a few other things here and there, all right? So if I click on the search icon, that's a little search icon, search box, all right, and so on and so forth, right? If I click on this plus, it has a function here. It's basically saying new form. Where's new form at? It's actually under edit.
It's in the edit screen.
Yeah, let me scroll down, edit again. Thanks. Where's that dang old new format? Oh, edit screen 1. So it's telling me to go to new to the edit screen 1, and then that's the edit form 1 right here. So based on this navigation, it's saying new form, go here. All right. So once this is clicked, and then it goes directly. So they already created that for me. I can make it do other things, but that's what it's automatically doing for me, right? I click on the search. There's more options here, right? So inside of InfoPath, we know that there's different options there, right? So I'm gonna go to InfoPath real quick, just to do a comparison for you. So inside InfoPath, we have this form that we have to create from scratch. This is not automatically created. Although if it's coming from a SharePoint list, it creates it something like this, but it's not as user friendly. So you have to recreate this based on your needs, right? So here are the fields right here. And then of course, what you can do is click on these fields, and then you can add different rules and things of that nature. So this is the comparison to what we just saw inside of InfoPath, right? We have validation, formatting, and actions, right? Not going to create one there, but that's basically the same thing, right? Let me just collapse that, collapse a couple more. All right. So we also have a delete button, and that's what it does. On select, remove this present item, all right? So it says on select, we're going to remove it from where? The employees list. The employees list where? The employees list right here in SharePoint. It's going to select the gallery. It's going to say if there's any errors from the employee list. And then after it's done, we're going to delete it and then go back to the previous screen. All right. This one right here, it says basically edit this present screen. Actually, it says edit the edit form screen, and that's back down here. All right. So that's pretty easy, straightforward. If you do have any questions about PowerShell commands, Power Apps command, Power Apps functions, now called Power FX. And then what you can do is go here, and there's a complete reference of pretty much every single Power Apps command. All right. So I'm just going to put that in chat. And I see you, Jay. Talk about security trimming. I'll do that a little later.
Well, you were already referring to it, Jeff, when you were talking about locking down things within SharePoint and making sure your users don't actually see the actual listing and all those things. I was just giving the title to it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So let me go back. All right, so here's all the formulas. So let's go ahead and talk about a few formulas that you see inside of InfoPath, right? And one is, I could search, but I'm purposely showing you everything that's here. One thing is called match. This actually is very similar to the reg edit. So sometimes you may want to match different fields so that people don't enter in any information that's not corresponding to that field, such as an email address, right? If they don't have an @ a .com, .mil, whatever, you want to stop that, right? So I'm just going to type in your email. So here's a couple of email validations. You just throw that in the field, you throw that pattern in, and then you're good to go, right? And there's a lot of predefined patterns here. So this helps you to kind of structure your functions so that those fields are good to go. So that's one-to-one mapping. And again, we'll see that in the presentation, but I just want to show you that you're not alone. This definitely is a good reference for you, all right? So I'm just going to close that down. All right, and that's basically the functions right there. This function, of course, is on select. There's an icon function that says edit. And everything that's right here, if you will, is also over here, right? So there's the icon. They got color, padding, so on and so forth. So if you're not used to just going to the drop-down menu, you may just want to edit your properties here. All right. So of course, if I wanted to change the color of this, I can easily do that. All right, here, and so on and so forth. All right. So you can see it's pretty simple, straightforward to modify. But you may be saying, so Jeffrey, you said work with data first. Where's that data at? All right. So inside this edit right here, this is where the user can come here and start editing things directly to that SharePoint list. However, here's the data connection right here. All right. So here's that data connection. And if you click on this and then you go to refresh, it refreshes it. But if you click on edit right here, it goes directly to the SharePoint list. All right. So I'm just going to go back to, there's a lot of other information here, but we're not going to go through everything today. This is just a quick overview. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to click play. So as you can see, the searches are really available. All right. You can do a sort. You can also do a create a new item. Put my name, my son's name there. All right. Let's see here. So right down, it's not a date field, but you can easily change that. And once you change that, you don't have to recreate this whole entire application. You just have to drop in that field again. All right. I'm just going to put in, let's just say, that's good. That's good for now. All right. And I can put in the email address. Oh, that's my personal email address and number. There we go. And then 555. Don't call that number. And as you can see, just like InfoPath, it has an attachment here, and that attachment goes directly to that list. I'm not going to attach anything, but once I click check, and then the Bonnie's name is there. All right, there he is right here. And if there's like thousands of users here, I can just type in Devani, and he shows up. All right, I'll go back to this list, and as you can see, Devani's name is automatically added there. So that's the beauty of creating application directly from SharePoint. It's quick and easy, or creating from any data source. It's extremely easy, and once you get into that Power App, it's easy to develop as well. All right. So I'm going to just delve back. Actually, I'll pause here and then ask if there's any questions. Are there any questions before we go any further? I know that you probably have some, Jay. I don't know if you want to chime in or let everyone else know. Feel free at any time.
The only thing that I was going to address is that you had mentioned about utilizing CDS and when you went over to the data sources. I just wanted to make sure that everyone understands that CDS or Dataverse is a storage service, right? So it's very similar to SQL, where you can utilize tables and as a database, right? So SharePoint is not considered a database. A lot of people will utilize it in that fashion, but it is not considered that. CDS or Dataverse is a database structured service.
Definitely. And Jay's right. It used to be called CDS or Common Data Services, but now it's called Dataverse. And this is definitely robust. So if you're used to using SharePoint, these are tables, if you will. And inside these tables, there is, think of these tables as lists, and there's corresponding views, forms, dashboards, charts, data, and relationships. And if you desire to, you can actually import different data sets into CDS, all right? Whether it's from Excel or any of these other sources. And I'm not technically in GCC, so you may see some differences, but not too much. I'll jump back to my GCC in a couple of seconds. But so you have everything from Excel to SharePoint folder to Azure and ODBC, old school people like me, and then SharePoint Online. So there's a different data sets that you can load directly into Dataverse. And like Jay's saying, this is based off of SQL, but this is way more robust. And you can share information across any type of Power platform, or rather inside of any Office 365 application, right? Whether it be Teams, SharePoint, Power Apps, Power BI, and so on and so forth. So right now, this is a little bit on the admin side, but this is my Dataverse right here on the capacity, and then this is the different types of files and folders that correspond to Power Apps. And this is not an admin course. I do teach that course, and that course is usually about 3 days, and it's definitely way more information. But this is definitely some parts that, from an administrative standpoint, when it comes to managing the Power Platform, you definitely want to understand, right? All right, so I'm gonna actually shut this down because this is, I won't shut down everything because this is my commercial, just in case if I have things there that I don't have in the other environment. All right. So inside of this environment, there's no database created. So in the beginning, you just want to create a database once you have the license inside the environment, and then the database will be readily available for you. All right. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and jump back to the presentation. We can skip a good amount of slides. I just didn't want to heavy laden you with all the slides. So sometimes I'll go really quickly through some of these slides because we already talked about it, right? And other times I'll pause because we just haven't talked about it yet, right? So left-hand navigation we have right here, and this is a hierarchy view that we saw earlier. Middle pane is where you develop your application, and the right pane is where you can unlock your control, connect to your data sources, put your different fields in the middle pane and things of that nature. Here's the formula bar or the FX bar, very similar to Excel, and of course the ribbon like any other application, right? Once you create that app, then you can publish it via a browser, and it's also available through your mobile app, whether it be Apple or Android. So file saving is very easy, simple, straightforward. You just go to File, Save. We saw I did that earlier, and then we'll see that again. If it's from SharePoint, technically it's already saved, so you just want to save, change the name, do a save, and then after that you want to do sharing. And we'll see that in a couple of seconds in the demo. And then you can, once you save it several times, there are different versions of that saving. You just go to Detail, and then directly in this app by clicking on the ellipsis, and then you can see the different versions, right? There's also telemetry. So you can look at your Power Apps analytics. You can see how many people access it on any given day. You can see the performance as well as any information that you need to see. All right. So before I jump into Power Apps, let me go ahead and show you how that's done inside of Power. Power Automate. Let me show you how some of those things are done inside of Power Apps. I'm going to just click on. I'm just going to click on Apps. All right. Let's click on the ellipsis. I can go to Detail here. There's a lot of information here. I'm not going to discuss everything here. This is way too much information, but that's the analytics preview right here. All right. And then I'm not going to wait till that load. I just created that app this morning. And then this is the version. So if there's any different versions here, you can see that here. And then you can also share it here as well. So this is sharing it directly from the app itself or the app homepage. So let's see here. So I can make that person a co-owner. Once this is published and ready to go, I can make every single user within DHS, every single user within your sub-organization, your division, your section, you can give them rights to actually read it, all right? They don't have co-owner rights. There's way too many people, but you at least give them the ability to read it, all right? So I'm just going to share that. I'm not going to send out an email. And then we're good to go. I'm going to do the same exact thing from the app itself. So if you click on this, and if the user click on this, it'll go to user mode. But I'm going to go to the edit mode. Yep, I most likely have it somewhere else open. I think it's probably this one. Let's close that one down. That one down. All right. Here. All right. So there's a lot of things to talk about, but I'll just focus. So I'm going to do a save as. I can call it DHS employee is actually already there. It's going to go to the cloud, and then this is where you save it. All right. I'm sorry, this is where you share it. Same exact thing that we did earlier. Let's see here. I don't know who's in this AD. Let's see. Yeah. So same exact thing we did earlier. I don't really want to look at the AD right now. I think there's somebody with an A name. Yeah, doesn't matter. All right. So simple, straightforward. So before we move to Power Automate, are there any questions? And when I say that, Jay, I'm really relying upon you.
Hey man, you're doing good. Just keep on cranking it out. I think when you get to Power Automate, you have a couple more things there.
Sounds good. So we're on slide 33. I'm just going to purposely go back here. So we definitely have more content to discuss. Everything from here, right? Feature parity and a few other things. We already talked about some of this, but we may go back to that again. And then there's a lot of tips and tricks, and as well as feature parity that we want to look at. All right. So let's go back to 33 here. All right. So SharePoint Designer, I've been working with that for a long time as well. And inside SharePoint Designer, I can create my flows. Inside of directly from SharePoint itself, you can create flows as well. All right. The one type of flow is, of course, is approval flow. This is just an example. You start the flow based on some type of condition or trigger, if you will. It sends an email that needs to be approved. The approval will review the document, and then if they approve it, the email will be sent. And if they rejected, the email was sent saying that they rejected. Same functionality and then some is available inside of Power Automate, right? Inside of InfoPath, I've created flows without a need for without a need for SharePoint or even SharePoint Designer flows, right? Some of you may have done that as well. Best practice is to use Power Automate. So if you have flows in there that's just sending emails based on certain criteria and certain conditions, definitely mark down those conditions and criteria and then migrate that to Power Automate. All right. So we're used to seeing SharePoint workflows, again, based on triggers, conditions, and actions, and then it's available via a SharePoint site, right? But with Power Automate, you have many data sources. We saw some of the data sources earlier. The beauty of Power Automate, you can link it to a OneDrive, Shared Drive, and SharePoint, SQL, and any other data source that we saw earlier, right? We'll discuss what each one of those items are a little later. I just want to go to the next slide. So some of the things you can do with Power Automate, of course, is set reminders, request sign off, get content approval, page approval, and things of that nature. All right. And then you can create your own based off of templates. You can learn from those templates, or you can create one from scratch. All right. So to start a Power Automate, you want to focus on the trigger, right? So if something happens, whether it be manually or automatically, and then you want it to go to the next step. And usually those triggers are associated to data connections, all right? So that data connection can be if something happens in Teams, start this. If a new person's been hired and they added to the SharePoint list, they added to Dataverse, and then start this flow, all right? So once that flow is started, then you're going to need an action, right? What are the steps you need to go through this process, all right? So you need an action that can trigger something, and then after that, you need a condition, all right? You don't want it to always be approved. If the status equals approved, and then send the email out saying that it's approved, it's rejected, end the flow, and then say that it's been rejected, right? So that's where your condition goes into play. And of course, inside of Power Automate, we have real-time testing, which we'll see a little bit later on the demo. All right. So this is one example. It's coming from a SharePoint list. The condition is an input. So if the input's true, and then do this. If the input is false, then do that, right? The beauty of Power Automate, it actually has a run history as well. So if there's ever any errors, you can see the status where there's errors at, and then you can delve into those errors. So let's go ahead and just do a quick demo of that. Again, this is all at a high level. You want to jump into a little bit more deeper, be happy to help you out with that. Most likely after this. All right, I am on my commercials, so let me go to the GCC. So same place, you just want to go to office.com and then click on Power Automate. All right. I didn't really want to do that because I'm already here. You can have actions, and I am in GCC. So everything you see here is available for you. And then there's no approvals, there's no flows, but this way you can come in and look at if you have any approvals and flows, or you can look at via email. These are the flows that I created in this environment. There's only one here. Of course, I don't need more, but for right now, this is where you can create them. And this is where, actually, let me click on create. You can create one directly from the cloud, Instant Cloud. Some of these, technically, I don't think this is available in GCC. I don't know why it's here yet. I need to make sure I increase my my plan, and then that's available, right? So in addition to that, here are the connectors directly in GCC. All right. I just clicked on all connectors, so you can see there's a lot of them here. All right. Your organization may or may not have all these available because they and the admin can hide some of these, whether it be Power Apps or Power Automate, based on the governance in your organization. So if you don't see Twitter, that's a good thing. Or you may see Twitter because a lot of government agencies have their own Twitter environments yet now, right? I even have Q&A maker here. All right. That's very important for me. All right. So in addition to that, this is Dataverse again. You can monitor it, and this is solutions. We're not going to discuss that in great detail, but you can import and export entire solutions pertaining to the Power Platform, right? Again, I'm not going to go into great detail on that, but that option is available as well. Let's wait a couple seconds for it to load. Someone has a statement or question? All right. Yeah, I don't even have a data.
Hey,
Jeff,
right. This is Jay. I wanted to make a statement in regards to the GCC side of the house.
Okay.
So you had mentioned earlier that you could do like approvals and things like that within SharePoint, but there are a couple other methods that you can utilize, like you said, using Power Automate. So you have the ability to create your approval process directly into Power Automate, and then now send those notifications, let's say, into Teams. Right? So that people can just approve right there in Teams and be able to not have to go to Outlook, or maybe you want a mobile notification. That is coming. The notifications is coming to the GCC of, I believe it's supposed to be July. I'd have to go pull it back up. But there also is with the release of Dataverse in Teams for GCC, there will be also a release of the approvals with directly in Teams as well. So you'll have your entire approvals versioning of Teams within Teams. So all of that is another method to be able to bypass having to be forced to just use SharePoint for those features.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you. That's actually really, really awesome, and I'm glad you noted that, because we're finding out more, at least with the dozens of customers I work with, is that Teams has become the centralized location to actually work, right? You don't want to open up email. You don't want to open up SharePoint. You don't want to open up all these other sources of information. You want to focus really on one centralized location, and Teams is becoming that platform so that you can centralize your information and you can do your approvals there. You can look at status of information, communicate with teams, your group of people, as well as collaborate. So definitely, I'm glad you brought that up, Jay. All right, so let me go to a flow. Let me create one from scratch. Let me actually close out some of these things right here. It's because I do not like a lot of stuff open. And then I'm just going to create a Power Automate flow. I'm just going to click there. And then I'm going to call this one approval. All right. And then as we can see here, there's a lot of triggers that we can start from, right? A new response is added to a Microsoft Forms, SharePoint, all right? When an item is created, when an item is modified in SharePoint, when a file is created inside of OneDrive, Planner, RSS feed is published, Gmail, as well as Azure as well. I'm just going to put in here SharePoint just because I know that this tenant doesn't have much in here. So I'm just going to click create. So now from here, I can say, okay, let me find the site address, right? You may already have the site address. In this case, this is a site address. It's not actually for the list. It's actually for the site. We're just going to copy the whole list because we make mistakes like that. I know I have at least a couple of dozen times. I'm just going to put the whole entire site list there. No value. Oh, automatically did it for me, right? So that's good to go. And then let me go ahead and find that list inside that site. We have a couple lists here. I'm going to go for the employee list. All right. So when new items created, what do we want to do? Well, before we click on a new step, you can show advanced. You can actually limit it per different view. And that's important because usually one thing that you want to do for performance too is to not have more than 5,000 items in a view. SharePoint list can hold about 3 million items. So don't think that's a limitation, but you definitely want to optimize your view so that there's no more than 5,000 items because if not, you're going to have some errors, right? So for me, I'm just going to click new step. And look at here. Oh my goodness, there's so many triggers. There's so many actions are available. Everything from controls, Excel, mail, Teams, as we discussed earlier, Outlook, and business. Maybe there's a weather that you're working with. What's in Homeland Security that deals with weather? I think it gets with a FEMA. All right. So if there's a hurricane or something, you may want to trigger if there's a hurricane in the area, push that to Teams, get a notification, say, let's go ahead and get our team together to go down to wherever that tornado is at. So this weather is actually kind of cool, and it can be, triggered based on any of the needs as well, right? So we have Excel actions. We can create a team, get messages. We can post adaptive cards. It's in preview, so it's not as good as it should be, but hopefully by July it'll be a little better. And then that's the weather one. You can create an event inside of Outlook. You can create a task inside of Planner. Of course, you can do other things inside of SharePoint as well. All right. And that's just the SharePoint one, and Excel and a few other ones. But if you delve into some of these, I'm just going to go to add a member to a team. All right. So on here,
hey Jeff, Jeff,
Go
before you move on, can you hit that plus sign in the middle of those two one more time?
Yep. You want a condition or something like that?
Yep. Let's go ahead and add an action. So hey, I just wanted to point out to everybody, don't add a condition. Go to that search up top, and let's go ahead and type in. Go to search, and start typing in like a connector you're looking for. So you said SharePoint. Type in SharePoint, and let's see what pops up.
Okay. There we go.
So right here, there you go. Those are all the actions that are associated with SharePoint. What if you mentioned Twitter earlier. What if you want to do Twitter? You could take that out and just type in Twitter. So this is going to have that direct connection to those connectors that are within Power Automate, and then brings back those actions that are associated with the Power Automate without having to now go through each one of those tabs that are sitting in front of you. So I just wanted to point that out because you happen to not go into the search. I just wanted to point it out to the group.
Thank you, Jay. I really appreciate that. Teamwork is makes the dream work, as always. So here are all of them, right? You definitely want to note that there are premiums right here as well. All right. So this does require a license for that. Everything that is not premium is automatically seeded or incorporated with Office 365. So bear in mind that some of these are not readily available for certain users that have not a individual license, right? So I'm just going to remove that operation for right now. And then I'm just going to, anything that's above here can show up down here, right? So what I mean by that is this. So if I click here, and then anything such as what's inside of the SharePoint list, well, we saw what's inside the SharePoint list, such as the ID, the title, the position. So I'm just going to pull the first email address, right? And then I'm going to add them to, I'm not going to make this dynamic. I'm just going to, add them to the DHS team, right? So every time a new item's added, look at this person's email address and then add them to the DHS team, right? I could make it dynamic, but again, I'm not going to make it too complex. This is good to go. I'm just going to say add to DHS teams, all right? That's the name of this workflow. Of course, I can save this. If there's errors, it's not even gonna save, right? So that's the beauty of the Power Automate. So I'm just gonna add a condition here, control, right? And I'm going to, actually, I know it'll come up an error right now. Maybe not. There we go. Now I should get an error. All right. So the flow checker is saying that, that there was an error there, but it most likely says I'm leaving out something, right? So if I try to save this, see if it saves, right? And it says you need to fill these out. Locations required, document library is required, and then the fill is required. That's the beauty of Power Automate. It will tell you if there's problems on that, all right? And then after you're done, you can test it. And then after you're done, you can publish it as well. So for right now, I'm just going to save this. I'm going to go back to my flow. I'm not going to do the testing. And then there's our flow right here. If I go to this drop-down menu, click on details. And then as we saw earlier in the presentation, there's a history right here, all right? So if I ran this flow, we can see if there's errors or if it's succeeded, and then we're good to go. We can also see the associated data connections and then who's the owner of this. We can also add another owner if we desire to, all right? Yep, and give them access to SharePoint. That's not complete access, but only as it pertains to this flow. I'm good to go. All right. All right. So that's Power Automate. So now let's go and delve into Power BI. That's just a few slides, and then we're on time for the Q&A. My alarm just went off, so I think we got 15 minutes for the Q&A. So I'm just going to accidentally put that on snooze, so it'll go off again. So the Power BI will only be a couple of seconds. Power BI, that's the URL for Power BI. And again, I'll give you this link, but just go to office.com and it will automatically navigate you here once you log in, right? So Power BI is dashboarding, right? There's a desktop where you create your dashboards at, or rather it's really called reports. And then Power BI services where you can create dashboards and do a lot of other things such as paginated reports, row level security, and things of that nature, all right? So the flow of Power BI, of course, is to prepare that data with Power BI Desktop. You explore the resources that are available, you create your report, and then you share it. Really simple, straightforward, right? There's a lot of data connections. These are the ones that you'll see inside of Power BI Desktop. You may see a little less here, but these are the ones that are available. And then you can actually transform that data, be inside Power BI Desktop. And just to that, you'll have a ribbon as always, left pane, center pane, where you create your conditions at. The beauty of these conditions, these conditions are very similar to what you see inside of just regular equations, but the Power FX is actually going to be taken over inside of Power Automate, Power Apps, as well as Power BI. Although some languages such as M and this language right here will still be there. But the Power FX is going to empower all users using just simple Excel formulas, if you will, or Power FX formulas to work across all platforms. That's later on in the future. It's not going to be immediate, but that's coming out very soon. So it's good to understand those Excel functions, or rather the Power FX functions, right? So inside the Power BI desktop, you'll see some of the same functionality, such as the home button, the ribbon. You see the canvas where you do your work at. You see different views here, such as the report view, the data view, and the model view, just like any other data set. You see different pages. You see filters, visualizations where you can add to the page, as well as the fields that you ingest from the different data sources. And of course, once you save it, then you can share it. Once you share it, then you can publish it. And once you publish it, it's published inside of Power BI services. There's, of course, everyone that has a Power BI license has their own workspace. And then there's, of course, also premium licenses that doesn't require those professional licenses. So I just wanted to go over that very quickly. I'm not going to go into great detail about this, but there's a premium capacity that allows read only for all free users internally as well as externally. So maybe you want to share a dashboard on different results that DHS has with a larger audience, so you can give them read rights to that dashboard. All right. So I'm just going to jump really quickly to close down that to Power BI. The same information inside that SharePoint list. So this is the SharePoint list right here. It's a Power BI dashboard, right? So as you can see here, you can actually do filtering, and it's all in real time. I think there's a tech guy here. Yep, there's a tech guy located in Miami. You can press the Control key down, hold a couple, select a few others. There's intelligence right here, so I can add in here average, whatever, or total office. All right, so I'm just going to add total office. So 7 offices throughout this data. Of course, there's filters on the side as well. And I only have one page, but I can have multiple pages. So just want to let you know that the dashboard capabilities is available as well. And that information is stored in one location, but published to here, right? What I also done was I have a SharePoint page. Let's see if I have to log in. Yep, of course. No worries. So SharePoint page, I added that to one SharePoint page. So I have my dashboard here. From the Power BI. I just added Power BI web part, and I also added a Power app web part. That's usually not done, but I just want to show you that that option is available. And these are really interactive, right? There's nothing on here that's static. All right. So if I click here in Miami, as you can see, it's works automatically. And then if I wanted to, again, this would be kind of weird if I added to this page. Maybe I add this to the SharePoint list. If I really wanted to, I can delve directly inside of Power Apps, and I do have the ability to update this Power App, as you can see here, right? And let me just go ahead and look for Devani. And then I'm going to delete my record for Devani. Good to go. Moreover, as Jay said earlier, Teams has integration. I just added these to just different channels, right? So inside this channel, I added the employees list, right? This is the Power App itself. And then this is the Power BI that I added as well. Hopefully it's not going to ask me for my credentials. You know? And of course, I just added this to different channels. Actually, I shouldn't have done it that way. So I clicked on, let me slow down. Click on this plus right here and this channel right here, Team 1 channel. Then I can type here Power. And I can add a Power Apps, Power BI. I'm just going to add the Power App. It's going to look at the ones that I have access to. I'm going to select this calendar app, right? I'm not going to, we already have the DHS employee one. I have no idea what that looks like. I haven't seen that in a while. And in a matter of a couple of seconds, this is the calendar app, and it's probably nothing in there. That's fine. All right, but just the purpose of it, just wanted to show you that it's readily available. So with that being said, there's some feature parity in place. All right, so for those who have used to using InfoPath, you know that the rules associated to the functions, right? We saw that the functions earlier can be conditions, right? We saw that there's a link to the functions inside of Power Apps, all right? So there's some if-then statements, all right? And just to that, we saw connectors inside of Power BI and Power Automate, and then as well as Power Apps. So that any connector that you usually see inside of InfoPath, there's way more inside of the Power Platform. We saw that here, right? And we saw that there's different pages or different templates inside of InfoPath. There's also inside of Power Apps. There's different views inside of Power Apps that are much better than what you see inside of InfoPath. So there's like a print view if you wanted to click on that, as well as themes. Here are all the functions that are associated to Power FX, which is very similar to Excel. These links have some examples, right? It has reg edit examples, concatenate examples, and things of that nature. And all formulas, you already have a link to all formulas. And again, I'm going to send you this slide, so you'll see these. All right. So here's some examples of that. I got this image directly from here. And here you see sliders, changing colors. All right. And here you see that it's low code. So traditionally JavaScript people, if you're used to doing code this way, all you have to do is one quick line like this, and then you get to go. All right. This one is looking up information from the orders list. I was looking up the employee and then the employee first name, as we got right here. And this one is just increasing the numbers. All right. And this one right here is pretty cool. It's saying, okay, I don't want to just take people from this employee list. I want to take people from a different, actually, I just want to change the color on this one. And this one changes from different views, right? Maybe we just want to see the employees from section X, right? Or section 1, or another organization, right? So that's the beauty of using these functions and the power of this properties right here. All right. I'm going to throw this one in the chat as well.
Jeff, you got about 5 minutes.
Thanks, sir. Seconds. Boom. All right, so we already did the demo, so we can actually skip that. Are there any questions before we wrap up for today?
No, just if you can just send additional information about your admin course, as well as the InfoPath 2-day sessions that you mentioned in the beginning.
I
Thank
sure
you.
will. Just making notes for myself. All right. All right, cool. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?